Just got back from a trip at Lopesan Bavaro Spa and Casino located in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. And I'm here in New York City. I figured I'd do a review since prior to me actually booking this trip, there was a lot of controversy around the reviews. Is it really worth the price that you pay? Does it live up to the hype? And how's my experience overall? So I'm gonna go over this resort in a very simple way. First, I'm gonna talk about the location and the resort itself. I'm gonna talk about the beach. I'm gonna talk about the food quality, the overall service, and at the end, once I'm done talking about the activities and the little extras, I will give you a value score based on my experience at this resort. First up, the location and the resort itself. Well, we landed pretty smoothly, and once we got to the resort, there's a beautiful entrance. The location is only about 15 minutes away from the resort, so it was a really quick drive. And once you showed up, I saw that some guests during my stay received like a champagne glass. I didn't receive anything, probably because I landed a little bit later, but I did see that from some guests. We got this nice little wristband and we were on our way. Once we checked into the room, spacious, beautiful balcony, comfy bed, refrigerator filled with drinks, no candy, which I was a little surprised about, but it's not the end of the world. No bottles on the wall or anything like that. But yeah, overall spacious, way bigger than I thought. One review that I was really keen on was the fact that it smelled like mildew. I did get that when I first showed up, but it went away pretty quickly. I think like once you turn on the AC, it kind of went away. It was like a moist smell. It wasn't like a big deal, but I did notice that some people did mention that. That is true. There is a slight moist smell to it. I didn't smell moldy. It was just moist. And the other review that I saw was about the AC. The air conditioning room was a little funky, and it was, but I didn't have any problem with it. It was kind of a theme throughout the entire resort, was that the actual air conditioning was always not super cold and not really hot, but it wasn't warm. It's kind of hard to explain unless you experience it yourself. Location itself, where the resort stands, is on this little curved divot located along the Punta Cana resort line. It's in this little divot, and I'll get into why that's important later, but it was very well situated next to the other resorts. It's broken up into a daytime and nighttime section, kind of not said but understood scenario. A lot of people didn't like this. When I was looking up other reviews of this place, a lot of people were unhappy with the structure of the resort and how the buildings were formatted and the layout. And a lot of people thought it could have been confusing and that it took some time to understand. Well, I'm here to clear it up. It's actually pretty simple. You have the main area of the resort, which is where the rooms are, a good amount of the restaurants, and the beach and pool life. That's pretty much self-explanatory. Once you show up, you'll see it, you walk around, you get the layout, you get the feel. It's all directed straight to the beach, and honestly, it's beautiful. At nighttime, this place really blows up. It looks amazing at night, but during the day, it is absolutely gorgeous as well. We had no problem walking around. We had no problem finding things. It was fun exploring the daytime area, and honestly, it is beautiful. The pool is wonderful. It's actually one of the best pools I've ever experienced at any all-inclusive resort. The drink situation was a little funky. You had, I believe, 3 or 4 different bars that you had to walk up to actually get a drink rather than any type of poolside bar. The lines weren't that long, but it seemed to take a while to get a drink. They only had one blender at certain areas, and the main place that people grabbed drinks actually was the beach club. But yeah, the pool is absolutely amazing. It is a family resort, so you do have a good amount of kids, but I will say it wasn't like as though the kids were a main part of the resort. I didn't mind them. I love children, and even then, it was kind of separate from the adults. And the reason is because once you get on the beach, you have the unique section of the beach, which is for the premium members. You have the adults only area where children were not allowed, and then you have kind of the family section where most of the children stayed. I did notice some bleed over where sometimes some families were staying in the adults only section, but it really wasn't the end of the world. I don't really care about that stuff. Back to the beach. Beach is gorgeous. Now, the location itself, why it's important is because the actual beach was almost like Aruba or Turks and Caicos. And for whatever reason, the divot that Lopesan Bavaro's beach lands on is one of the biggest beaches, so the length of the actual beach. The ocean itself is pretty short as far as the depth you could go and how far out you can go, but it was the most clear, blue, absolutely calm beach area that you could ask for in the Dominican Republic. So you're pretty lucky when you go to Lopesan, because it's almost as if you're getting a higher quality Caribbean beach at a lower price. So it was amazing. Only downside to the beach, which some people made a bigger deal out of it than I experienced, was the fact that you have a lot of docked boats in the area. So I will say when you're on the beach, it is noticeable, the music that those boats are playing. It's pretty noticeable when you're laying down on the beach that they are there. They are constantly moving around. They're trying to make it known so that you can try and, you know, buy something from them. But it wasn't a deal breaker for me. It really wasn't the biggest deal in the world. I still enjoyed a great time. When I was further back on the beach area, I really didn't get much noise. And what's amazing also about the Lopesan beach is that you didn't get hassled to try and buy services. It wasn't like when you were on the beach that you were constantly getting attacked by people trying to sell things to you like I experienced at Molia or Paradisius. It just wasn't the case, luckily. Beach itself is amazing. Resort itself in the daytime section is great. And for the nightlife area is actually great. At night, this place lights up beyond belief. It is flowy, it is smooth. During the day, it does kind of feel all over the place. I really wouldn't even stop here unless you're going to the gym or you're trying to get coffee. Now, the gym itself is absolutely fantastic. It is actually better than my own gym at home, which is pretty sad to say that All Inclusive has a better gym than my local gym. I work out pretty frequently, so this was a big factor for me. It's free to get in. It's included with the price that you pay for the resort, and you get a little towel upon check-in. You walk in, you have a ton of machines for legs, for back, for arms, doesn't matter what it is. You actually have great squat racks here. You have a good amount of ellipticals that I didn't really have any trouble finding if I want to go for a run in the gym in the morning. And overall, this place is just stunning. The Bavaro coffee section of the nightlife area in this resort is fantastic as well. Very friendly service there, never had a problem. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just kind of put like the rest of the nightlife area and the stores that are in this area. There's a ton of shops that if you wanted to go to during the day, you could. There's some that only open up in the evening. For the most part, if you want to buy something, you go there, you check the stores out. It's actually pretty good quality for the most part. You can find normal clothing, you can find your cheap budget clothing, you can find emergency supplies if you need to. The pharmacy was great, they have a lot of options. But you also have a big kids area all the way in the back when you go towards the end, right next to the YOLO restaurant. There's a whole water park for children, which actually looked pretty crazy. If I was a kid, I'd definitely be happy with that. There was another water area on the daytime section of the resort. It was a little bit smaller, of course, but in the back, it was like a full area and a place where you can hang out with your kids. There's a teen section where you just have a small area for some teens to go hang out. You have a gaming room, which is actually really great. You pay some money for some tokens, you can play pool there. Even though there's pool at other places, you know, you play pool here. And there's actually a bowling alley, which I did not expect. I did not know that there was a bowling alley. I didn't get to play, but I definitely wish I did. The theater for your shows at nighttime. We went to a couple, they were pretty good. And then most importantly, for the nighttime people, your club. The club was like a mini Atlantic City or mini real club. I mean, it was actually pretty fun in there. Music was great. The bar itself was beautiful. It was spacious. And overall, that's exactly what you'd expect from a club. I couldn't expect any more, honestly. It was a good time. The overall resort in the daytime section is spacious. I mean, the restaurants, which I will get to later, is very spacious. All the areas are very spacious. The lobby's spacious. It did feel a little bit spacey in that there was a ton of areas throughout the whole resort where it was like areas that could have been utilized better, and I don't know why they weren't. Here's some clips of them as I'm talking. They're kind of just like there, and no one was really ever hanging out with them during my stay. And mind you, I stayed at a peak time in January, so it was packed. I mean, it wasn't like this place wasn't packed. We actually tried to stay extra night, and they were fully booked, so we couldn't even stay an extra night. And these areas weren't even filled. So the resort is spacious beyond its means, and I feel like they could have added a couple things to really fill up the place. The food at Lopesan. Wow. That's all I really have to say is wow. Wow, because it was either really, really good or okay. And I was surprised at what was good and was surprised about what wasn't good. So there's a bunch of restaurants at the resort. We have the French restaurant, La Boheme, which was like the most popular one that people were talking about, at least prior to me coming to this resort. The steakhouse, which was lackluster in my opinion. The Mediterranean, which I did not experience, but looked beautiful inside. The Mexican or Spanish, we went to that twice. That was how good their sea bass dish was. It was phenomenal. I think the Italian, which was easily the hardest to get a reservation for, so I definitely recommend, if you do like Italian food, get a reservation there as soon as possible. it was phenomenal. There was also the Asian restaurant, which the hibachi style. We did not do that just because at other resorts we had bad experiences with them, but they looked pretty popular as well. Now, there's also the buffet section, which was great. The food quality there was actually one of the best buffets I've ever had. The food quality was there. The recipes, like I said, are kind of hit or miss, but for the most part, you're getting what you asked for. The breakfast in the morning was great. The lunch was great. The dinner was great. Everything was great at the buffet, especially for an all-inclusive. I had no complaints about the food there. If you did miss the buffet time and you're waiting for dinner and this is a weird in-between, you'll notice when you're at the resort, you can go over to the YOLO, which is down by the Nightlife section. Nice little bites you can grab there. You can grab hamburgers. You can grab mac and cheese for your kids, chicken tenders, Caesar salads, you know, simple foods. And then you had the beach club, which the beach club, I think, opened at 12. And it was okay. I mean, it was kind of inconsistent, which is another theme of this place is inconsistency when it comes to the food. It was like you get one thing one day and the next day it was totally different, but it kind of tasted the same, but the food itself was, I don't know, it was hard. It's hard to explain, but it's inconsistent. It kind of is all over the place, but it is great just to sit down, grab a mojito, have some food, and get back to the beach. So it was perfect for that. There was a unique section, which I read online, does have filet mignon and lobster. Now, I will say the steak quality at this resort, in terms of the meat itself, we had some of the most phenomenal, tender, delicious steak that you could ever ask for, all-inclusive. And then the other days it was kind of dry and rubbery and disgusting. But for the most part, I would say 8 out of 10 times I got a delicious, tender piece, and I was not a unique member. So if you are interested in that, you know, give it a shot, but for the most part for me, I did not. Lastly, there's a food spot located in the lobby right down the steps by the bar, and this place was perfect for like your games. They had 2 pool tables, they had a ping pong table. It was both kind of broken, but we made do with it. You sit down, you can grab some food, Caesar salad, chicken tenders. I actually had a Philly cheesesteak there. It was actually good for what I expected from an all-inclusive, aside from the bread, but it was tasty. And yeah, it was just a good little hangout spot for food. Overall, the food was great for what I expected at an all-inclusive in general. Trust me, I've had terrible all-inclusive food. This was definitely worth it. So the service was okay. I don't really care about service. To be honest, you can ask anybody. I just give me the drink, and I don't really care how you treat me. Just want to drink my drink or get my food, and I don't really care. But I do know people do care about that stuff. So the service in general wasn't really the best. They were doing their job. When you tipped them, they didn't really say thank you. They didn't really care too much, which is fine by me. I don't care. I'm just trying to, do my best as a person. But the way the bartenders were preparing your drinks and treating you while they're preparing them, it wasn't that great. It wasn't bad per se. I found myself constantly getting skipped over by people, meaning that I was online and they would just go to somebody else. They didn't really treat you other than what do you want to drink, and that's it. Where I did find that the service was fantastic was at the restaurants. Pretty much every restaurant that I went to had amazing service. It was the bars that were lackluster, especially the ones by the pools. They didn't really care. The lobby bar, they didn't really care about you. The actual restaurants themselves, they were fantastic service. We laughed. We actually had a great time with them. You could get drinks by the pool. They were walking around by the pool, but I did not notice anybody walking on the beach. So if you do care about getting your drinks at the beach, do not expect them to go up to you. They can come up to you by the pool, but that's just a fair warning. As far as the activities go, it's spotty. It's a hit or miss. If you're a family, it's actually great because it kind of spaces out the time. But if you're in a couple, or if you're by yourself or a group of friends, the club isn't open every night. So that's a downside. There is a DJ that kind of springs from different areas, whether it be in the main lobby, in the center of the nighttime area of the resort. They kind of jump around from different restaurants, different bars, different areas, and it's kind of like you take a DJ, you place it in a different place every night. Think about the club, for me anyway, it was only open Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It wasn't open any other day of the week, which is okay because with the DJ, it kind of forced you to experience the other parts of the resort, like the English pub or the center of the nightlife area. It kind of made you get a good feel of the whole place if you did want to spend some time with some music. And lastly, the extras. So some things I'll say about this place: you do have a wine cellar, which had a good selection of wines, very well priced. There is a cigar lounge, which was actually really nice. They had a decent selection of cigars, a little bit overpriced, but it wasn't wild and overpriced. It was just you expect to pay a little bit more because you're on an island. If you do have kids, this is kind of the kids' time. This is a family resort, but it didn't really feel like it. It also didn't feel like, you know, like a solo or group type of trip. It was a solid family resort. However, you would have a good time on your own or with a group at this resort for sure. I didn't notice that anyone really had problems with children whatsoever. They were out the pool, they were splashing, throwing things. You know what you get into. Enjoy the time you have with children around you. And there's nothing really else to say about that. There were the water parks, which are great for the children. You had the clubs, like I said. In the buffet section, there's actually a family section and adults only section, which is great. So you did feel as though you weren't at a family resort. You kind of got away from the screaming and yelling. Same thing with certain restaurants. I had no problem with children at restaurants. There are actually some adults only restaurants, like the steakhouse, where you can only show up if, you know, you're an adult, not a kid. So the thing I'll say about the extras is just the events. The shows, it was almost unwatchable, some of the shows, because you had lights staring right at you. Like beams of light was shining into your eyes multiple times throughout multiple shows. So it kind of made it unwatchable, even though the dancers were great and the shows were really well put together for what you would expect of all-inclusive. I had to leave because the lights were literally blinding. Extras also, I would definitely show up early if you have a prime spot that you're looking to get, whether it be at the pool or the beach, because as usual with these all-inclusive, people are savages. They show up at the crack of dawn and try and get the best spot possible. I did notice some of the security moving things around, so I would leave something if you really wanted to save the spot. So definitely show up early if you're looking to get a certain spot. Room service, the other thing, and the app. So the application that you use to book the reservations, I'm just gonna show you now how you kind of just maneuver through it. You can check out the restaurants, you can check out the menus, you can book your reservations, you can order room service. I didn't do any room service, but I did see other people doing it. It kind of just looked like the regular buffet food. Yeah, honestly, it's pretty self-explanatory. It was pretty smooth relative to other places I've experienced. It was like a pretty solid app overall, but you know, they could improve on it, of course. I didn't really deter me from anything. And lastly, the unique section. Now, I want to talk about the value and the pricing I paid at the end, but just know that the unique section overall is kind of like, if you have the money to spend it and you don't mind spending it, then why not? You know, they do have their own private pools. They have a couple private bars, and then they have the private beach club. But besides that, I really didn't see too much benefit other than just being away from everybody. If you did want to have like your own private experience and you wanted to kind of be away from the crowds and you wanted that like privilege of being in your own pools and your own beach section, and you don't mind spending the extra money, then go for it. You know, who am I to say? But me personally, I did not think the price was worth it for the value of the resort itself. If I were to spend that money, I'd rather just go to a whole different resort and a whole different island rather than spend the money at the unique. So we talked about everything. I want to give my score, but the last thing I really say is understand where I'm coming from. I paid a great price for this resort. I booked 3 months prior. I stayed in the peak of January, so a lot of people were off from school, and it was right after the holidays. So I did pay almost peak booking time, but I didn't pay peak pricing. I booked with super.com. There's a $100 off code below if you do actually use it. I don't really gain anything other than a potential $100 off on one of my future bookings. But I did use that, so I did get $100 off my stay. So for 2 people, I paid $2,200, so $1,100 each before the flights. And at that price, it's about $180 something a night. I did 6 nights. And at that price, this place is a steal. And I mean steal. I mean, I would book this multiple times a year type of steal. Now, I did say unique pricing in the $600 to the $800 per night range. So you're looking at $3,000 per person. Stay at the same resort, similar experience. I don't think that's worth it, in my opinion. And now I'm going to score the Lopesan Bavaro Spa and Casino Resort as a whole. I'm going to break it up pretty simply as to what people would expect from any all-inclusive, no matter where you book. This way we have a comparison for the future. The resort/location, the beach itself, the food quality, the service, and the extras, which are activities and other events that are happening, things to do of that nature, stuff like that. And then overall, the value score. Now I'll get into what I paid right after that. So I'm going to do 1 through 100. Here's the scores I gave them. First, the resort itself. I'm giving the score an 85. The reason why it's an 85 is because it's near perfect. I mean, if they were to figure out a way to construct this whole resort similar to like a Hard Rock style, I think this place could really be phenomenal. But for what it is, I'm extremely happy, and I really wouldn't change much. But I did see how it was kind of daytime, nighttime, and if I would have stayed past 6 or 7 nights, it would get a little boring. I do wish things were kind of a little bit more all over the place, but that's just my preference. So this could easily be in the 95s, but it's just your personal preference. Next up, the beach. Now the beach is beautiful. I'm scoring this based on Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, and I'm gonna give this a 92. There really wasn't much seaweed. I know it's the time of year, but in comparison to other areas of the same strip, they cleaned up. The beach quality itself was really high. It was almost Aruba-esque, which I would put in the 95 category, and Turks and Caicos in the 98s, you know, just so to say. So it was actually beautiful beach. It was very clean. You didn't get haggled like you did at other resorts, and it was great. Food. Now, here's weird part about the food is I love the food, but it's not the best I could ever have. I'm giving this a clean 80. The food itself was great. I would not put this below an 8 out of 10 or 80 out of 100. I really wouldn't go that high as a 90 either, because it was really inconsistent, but I did really enjoy the food there, and I would definitely recommend it to anybody, and I'm a big food guy, so definitely take that 80 with a grain of salt. Is that the only reason why I'm grading it 80 is because, and not in 90s, is just because the inconsistency. I didn't have the consistent high quality meals as I could have across all the restaurants and all my dishes I had. The service. Now, I met some amazing people, and I will be lying to you if I said the service was bad, but I definitely be lying to you if I said the service was good too. Like I said, I'm not a big service guy. I don't really care too much about that. Just give me the food, give me the drink, and, you know, I'm fine. I'm not really a complainer, but people do care about this stuff. And overall, I felt the service was lackluster. I'm going to give this a 73. And I can't really say it's below a 70, because if it was below a 70, I would imply that it wasn't the best of times. But they definitely were great people. And like I say, it's over at 80, because then that would basically say that most of my interactions were pleasant when it came to these people. But overall, the restaurant people were fantastic. They provided great service. The bar people didn't really care about you. They just were giving you a drink and that was it, which is fine. I don't really care about that. That's exactly why I showed up, to get a drink. But some people do care about what they're paying to get provided the service that they're paying for. And, you know, if you're paying unique pricing at $600 to $800 a night, this definitely was not the quality service of that type of caliber. And the extras, so the activities, things to do, I didn't really do much activities. There really wasn't much to do. That's why it was like once a day they would come around with a different activity, like volleyball was once a day, or I think darts were another day or something like that. But there really wasn't much to do. You kind of had to do things on your own and do things as a group of other people if you wanted to actually have some fun activities. I'm gonna give this activities clean 75. 75. If it was above a 75, that would imply to me that I had something to do every day, which I didn't. And if it was below a 75, that would basically say there was really not much to do. So 75, I think, is a fair score. So that's it, guys. Here's your average. Here's the grading based on this little scale that I created. I might change in the future, but I will tell you, overall, Lopesan, I had a great time. The value that I paid, the price I paid, I'd recommend it to anybody, family, with kids, group of guys, group of girls, guys and girls, couples, which is what I was doing. And man, it was just a great time overall. If I were paying unique pricing, or if I was paying on the higher end of pricing, I don't think I would be as happy with the food and with the service. But because I paid $1,100, even if I paid $1,500 to $1,600, even close to the $1,800, I'd be fine with it. I wouldn't really complain. But the prices some people could wind up paying at this place is pretty ridiculous. So just know that as long as you're getting the right price for this place, for you, you will be getting pretty good food, pretty good service, amazing beach, and a very clean, very, very clean resort, well put together. And honestly, I would go back anytime and recommend it to anybody. And that's why I made these videos, because it does live up to the hype. People rave about this place online. It is worth the price if you're paying the right price. And the controversy about the reviews, how people were asking for reviews, it's worth a review. It's worth a good review. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is the first of many. I hope that you guys enjoy the quality. I will only up it from here. And if you have any comments, ask them away below. I will answer any questions. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.